Right now, South Africa is facing a massive agricultural crisis. An outbreak of foot and mouth disease is absolutely crippling the country's livestock industry. So today, we're going to break down what this all means for the farmers, for the economy, and for you.
I am TJ, and this is Just My 2 Cents Worth.
And just to give you a sense of how serious this is, listen to what agricultural leaders are calling it. This isn't just hype. They're saying it's the worst livestock disaster in the entire history of South Africa. That's a huge statement, and it's a warning of a crisis that's got some major consequences.
And this is not some small, localized problem. Nope, the disease is already spread to 7 out of the country's 9 provinces. That is a staggering scale, and it turns the job of trying to contain it into a monumental nationwide challenge.
So what exactly is this disease that's causing all this chaos? Let's take a closer look at what farmers are really up against.
Okay, so foot and mouth disease, or FMD, is this viral infection that just spreads like wildfire. It specifically targets cloven-hoofed animals, the absolute backbone of the livestock industry. We're talking cattle, pigs, sheep, and goats. And it's how incredibly contagious it is that makes it a farmer's absolute worst nightmare.
And the disease itself is just brutal. The infected animals get these high fevers and painful blisters inside their mouths and on their teats. They start drooling like crazy, and they get these sores between their hooves that make it agonizing to even move or eat. And for dairy farmers, milk production just tanks. It's a horrible mix of an animal welfare crisis and a total production disaster.
Now, this is a really important point to get straight. The FMD that's affecting animals is totally different from the hand, foot, and mouth disease that's pretty common in little kids. They're caused by different viruses, they affect different species, and the outcomes are worlds apart. Animal FMD is a massive economic threat, while the human version is usually just a mild childhood illness. The suffering of the animals, as terrible as it is really just the beginning. The economic shockwaves from this outbreak are being felt all across the nation. Let's break down just how this one disease can cripple an entire sector of the economy.
So get this, the second a single case of FMD is confirmed, international markets just slam shut. To be considered FMD-free, a country has to have a perfect record. Just one case, and that triggers an immediate ban on all meat exports, instantly cutting off a huge stream of revenue.
Dr. Freaky Maray's words here, they just paint a brutal picture. He says FMD economically cuts the throats of farmers. I mean, when their markets just disappear overnight, so does their income. It leaves them with animals they can't sell and bills they have no way to pay. And this problem doesn't just stop at the farm gate. Since South Africa lost its FMD-free status back in 2019, we've seen this massive ripple effect. We're talking widespread job losses, markets collapsing for smaller farmers, and huge losses for all the businesses that support agriculture. And for you and me, it can mean food shortages and definitely higher prices when we go to the store.
Okay, so this is where trying to solve the problem gets, complicated. Fighting FMD isn't just up to the farmers. It's a battle that's managed entirely by the state, and that brings a whole unique set of challenges.
It's a totally fair question, right? You're probably thinking, if there's a vaccine for this, why can't farmers just vaccinate their own animals and get back to business? Well, the answer is kind of surprising, and it has everything to do with national and international law.
You see, under South African law, FMD is what's called a state-controlled disease, and that means only the government can legally buy, manage, and hand out the vaccines. Farmers are actually prohibited from doing it themselves.
And there's a reason for this centralized approach. It's essential for getting international recognition. To be declared FMD-free with vaccination, the World Organization for Animal Health needs to see proof of a systematic government-run program. But here's the catch. The entire system depends on the government's capacity to pull it off. Any delays or gaps in their veterinary services can actually make the outbreak even worse.
So what's the long-term game plan here? Well, the government has put together a pretty ambitious roadmap to try and get out of this mess. It is a long haul. We're talking a decade-long plan. For the first few years, the big goal is just to stop the virus from spreading and get the number of cases way down. In the medium term, the objective is to win back that all-important FMD-free with vaccination status. And the ultimate goal, 10 years down the line, to completely get rid of the disease and become an FMD-free zone that doesn't even need vaccines anymore.
Now, while that national strategy is absolutely crucial, the war against FMD is ultimately won or lost on each individual farm. The number one line of defense is something called biosecurity.
And these steps,
They are completely non-negotiable. First, you have to secure the farm's perimeter. Second, control all movement on and off the farm and quarantine any new animals. Third, enforce super strict hygiene, foot baths, vehicle disinfection, the whole 9 yards. And finally, you have to constantly monitor the herd for the earliest signs of trouble and report any suspicions immediately. This is the essential, on-the-ground work that could actually turn the tide.
So it all comes down to this critical question. We have a national disaster on our hands and a decade-long war ahead. But success hinges on both the government's grand strategy and the daily discipline of thousands of individual farmers. Can this farm-by-farm fight, this intense focus on biosecurity, really be enough to win this war? That's the challenge South Africa is facing right now.